Welcome back to the Comics Cube, everyone. Today I am joined by Sheree Domingo, who is from Germany, and will be joining us at the Philippine International Comics Festival on July 5 and 6 at the SM Megamall MegaTrade Hall. Go and get your tickets and come meet Sheree. Sheree, how are you?
Hey, thank you for having me at the Comics Cube. I'm good. I'm excited to fly to the Philippines soon. It's in a week already. And at the moment, I'm in south of France with the family of my partner and my newborn baby.
Oh,
So life
congratulations.
life has changed dramatically.
Since you were last here.
Exactly.
So with is your newborn baby coming to the Philippines as well?
No, I'm gonna leave her with my partner this time.
Uh,
It's a bit too much for a week just
yeah,
coming. We will come back in January to celebrate her first birthday in the
yeah,
Philippines.
that's good. That's great. I bet you're looking forward to the traffic. I have one question that I ask to everyone who comes onto my show for the first time, which is a very simple, take all the time you need. Why do you love comics?
Yeah, why do I love comics? When I read a comic that I like the what what a panel sequence in combination with words can do sometimes, that it really moves me sometimes when it works well. What yeah, when you combine words and images and that what you can create, like you can create something new, like there can be a difference between the image and the word, it can be a coherence. Yeah,
Sometimes
it
they have
really,
nothing to do with each other.
sometimes they have nothing to do with each other and it still creates something, it still does something. And I find it very fascinating, and it's the medium that moves me the most,
Do
or
you
can move
remember
me the most.
do you remember the comic that made you fall in love with comics?
It was Persepolis from Marjane Satrapi. That was the
What?
first time. Yeah,
Yeah, it
that
was the
was the
first.
first time where I thought, oh, that's cool, and I want to do that. That's where I thought I want to do that too.
What an incredibly timely and relevant person to be
It's
naming at
true.
this point in time.
True. Very true. My flight is even now longer. It takes 2 hours longer because I guess they have to avoid Iran airspace.
Oh my goodness. So for those who don't know, Marjane Satrapi is a game-changing graphic novelist from Iran, who created the comic Persepolis and Persepolis 2. She no longer makes comics, and we
Yeah,
are we are
all
sad.
sad about it. She
Um,
released the anthology, I think,
yeah,
a
a few
few years
years ago.
ago, kind of. Yeah,
Sherry,
but no,
I'm
yeah,
very curious about this because you said off the air that Domingo is your mother's name. So your mother's Filipino.
my mom is Filipino and my name is Domingo is not written on my passport. So on my flying ticket, on my tickets, flight tickets, it's not Domingo. But I'm actually I'm registering it as a pen name at the moment in Germany. But yeah, like I'm using my name is Sheree Beats. It doesn't sound as good as Domingo. And I think I always found it so unfair. Like, why is the name of my mom forgotten? Like, she moves to Germany, marries a German, and then her name is gone. And I'm not where, like, I mean, in Germany, there are other countries where you keep your mother's name at least, but in Germany, you have to give up one name.
Yeah.
Also, my child has to choose one name. She can't have both our
Well,
names.
I guess she's not gonna take Domingo either.
No.
um, that's interesting to me because you know the naming convention in the Philippines for newborns.
They keep both, no? They can keep, my mom kept both names from her
Yeah,
parents.
I have two first names. Dui is not my real name, I have two first names, and my middle name is my mom's maiden name, and my
Yeah,
last name is my dad's name.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's much better.
Is it? It makes my name really long.
It's yeah, then you sound like a prince.
An old school prince. So, when did you
But
start
yeah,
draw? When did you start drawing?
I s- it sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but I would say that I never stopped drawing, basically. You know, like almost every child draws, and some stop because they start
Mhm.
being critical about their drawings or like judging them or like, oh, this doesn't look like a real apple or house. I stop, I can't draw. And I guess I've never stopped drawing. Maybe I also became a bit critical at some point as a teenager with my drawings, but I think I always wanted to tell stories somehow. Like I was always writing and drawing. It's so
Everybody,
cliche. It's such a cliche answer, but I
every
always wanted to draw,
everybody gets critical of themselves as a teenager. It's okay.
right? It's horrible. Yeah.
Can you tell me so you never stopped drawing, but when did you start realizing you wanted to so you saw Persepolis, but then when did you start making comics? Like did you just jump right into it or what was the process like for you? What's your journey been like, I guess is my real question.
Mm, it's been it's been quite simple. And I was lucky enough that my parents allowed me to enroll in art school, and I found an art- I fo- I went to figure drawing, like you know where you draw nudes, like from
Yeah.
a local, like a local workshop when I was 16, and there I met someone who was enrolling in art school a year before me, and he told me, "Yeah, it is super cool." And then it was in Kassel. It's a bit further from where I grew up in Stuttgart, and it's one of the only art schools that have a comic class. There's Hamburg and Kassel, basically in
Wow.
Germany, where you can study comic. It's a And then I thought, okay, that's cool. It's like the whole so the the general studies was called visual communication. So it's like graphic design, photography, film, and comic. And I've and I was specifically interested in studying comic and illustration. And then I visited that guy who enrolled there before me. And then I was like, okay, this. I have to come here. This is what I have to do. And then I started studying at the art school in Kassel.
Can you talk
Uh,
to me about how the comics are seen in Europe? Because I feel like it's very different from how comics are seen in America
mm,
and in the Philippines, etc.
yeah, I think in this case, I can't speak of Europe because in Europe it's very different.
Hmm.
So Germany is very, like, for example, now I'm in France and I also studied half a year in Belgium. So the Franco-Belgium, they're really into comic. It's like part of the culture. Like when you're a cultivated person, you read comics, you have novels and you have comics also in your bookshelf. But in Germany, it's perceived different. It's a bit like the whole scene is a bit younger. It doesn't have this long tradition. And
Hmm.
also, it's a bit like as if you tell someone in Germany that you studied, that you make comics, that you're taken less seriously than as if you tell to someone in France. Like often
Oh,
it's like, oh, you're drawing. It must be for kids. You're making kids' books? No, I'm drawing comics for adults. And it's like, who's reading comics? It's like much like it's also harder to make a living in Germany with comics than in France. You can make a living. Like people are buying comic books. There's a comic bookshop in every small village. But in Germany, it's harder. It's like not every bookshop is selling comics. And and I know in Berlin there are free comic book shops.
oh
And in
wow.
Paris you can't count. there's no way to count how many. I don't know how many. I see a comic book shop in every corner in Paris. That there's a huge difference.
Wow, that's incredible. I interrupted you because I wanted to ask about the scene, but you finished art school and then
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I studied in Kassel, and I was very. I'm feeling very privileged that I was able to. I mean, it's like studying art is. I mean, I I think not every parent is allowing that, and my parents were very. They let me do. They were like, sometimes they were like, what the hell is she doing there? What's she gonna do with it? Is she gonna make a living with it? But okay, we let her do. And
I
so
was
I
gonna
was
say you
very
had a
lucky.
Filipino mom who let you go to art school.
She was in the beginning, she was saying something like this, you know, this is something like princesses are doing. But okay.
Okay.
And and then I studied, and I did at one exchange here in Brussels, and that really changed, that really accelerated, I think, my comic making. I met a professor there. Her name is Judith van Nistendaal. I don't know if you know, like Franco-Belgian, and she was like a huge inspiration for me. And she was so Ferngespräch, long distance call, the comic that's being published now in the Philippines,
Yeah.
was actually my graduation work from art school. It's super
Oh,
old. It's like I started drawing this comic in 2016. It's 10
okay.
years
Wow.
ago.
10 years, 9
And
years.
it was my and it was my graduation project. And this professor from Brussels, she came to Germany to have to supervise me. Like,
That's great. That's great. What is long distance call about?
so long distance call is about a Filipino nurse working in Germany in a retirement home, and her daughter, who unfortunately has to join her because it's school holidays, they're not going on holidays. So she has to accompany her in the retirement home. And an old lady. There are three characters in the story. And the old lady lives in the retirement home, and they all meet there. It's summer, it's super hot at the moment in Germany. And they all have in common that they don't want to be in this place. Like the nurse would like to be in the Philippines, take care of her mom who's very sick, instead of taking care of elder people in Germany.
Yeah.
Um, the girl would like to be on holidays, like her other school friends who go to some beaches and um, have a fun time instead of being in a retirement home. And the old woman just is freshly widowed, and she she didn't want to be in this retirement home either. Like, she happened to be there because her husband was very sick and they couldn't live on their own anymore. So yeah, and they all meet in this retirement home, and the girl happens to become friends with the older woman.
And what was the inspiration for that particular comic?
This comic is it's a very personal and autobiographical comic. I guess when you starting to make comics and you are 18 and you have nothing, I mean, you start telling you you start looking for stories in your own life or in your family. And I think, um, I guess that because the first comic I ever drew uh, was we had a seminar about work. That was the general topic, work, and I knew that I have so many family members like working abroad. I had uncles who worked in Rome and Italy. My mom was in Germany. Um, I had aunties who worked in Saudi or in Qatar, and everyone was like far away from each other. And so when we had this seminar about work, it was natural that I was telling a story about this family, like a family story. So I told a story about my grandmother, who was also separate from her father, who like it's one generation before. Like he was one of the he was a worker at a ananas pineapple plantation in Hawaii.
Okay.
So they didn't see each other for 30 years. And I always found it so crazy. Like, how can you? It was a time before FaceTime, like no internet, no telephone. Well, if there was a telephone, it was super expensive, and not seeing each other for 30 years. I was like, so hard to imagine how this must felt like for her. Like when her dad comes back after 30 years, like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And then, so I was telling, this was the very first comic I was telling. And then in between was my time I studied, trying to play, to tell other stories. But it's funny, it was natural that I came back to this topic in the end of my studies, and that it's a different story, but the topic is the same.
You were born and raised in Germany.
Yeah.
But your comics, those comics, Long Distance Call is about. Are you the little girl?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
it's fiction, but
So, so what was that like? Because I was born and raised in the Philippines, and um, having been born and raised in the Philippines, you hear what I sound like. I sometimes get told I'm not Filipino enough. But so what was that like growing up? Like, what was it like discovering your roots? How often did you come back here? I just want to know about
Mm.
what your relationship with the Philippines is like, having been born and raised
Mm.
outside.
So when I was very small, we often flew to the Philippines. I guess it was also because my grandparents were still alive, and um, so until I was 6, there were several visits, and then my parents bought a house in Germany, and then there was not enough money to fly all the time. So there was 10 years where I haven't visited the Philippines, and uh, it's yeah, like I was I was raised like sometimes, yeah, being the only, like in my school there, I was always the only like half Filipino child. My mom had some friends, but there was not much Filipino community around me. So I I was very detached from the culture, like except of the food my mom was making, the language she was speaking with my auntie. Like I also, my mom speaks Ilocano, but I've never learned it. Like she didn't speak to me. She spoke German to me. So that was also it's yeah, I think it's a big struggle. I think was my biggest struggle in life, like emotionally, to not speak the language, you know.
Your
Um
mom speaks Ilocano and Tagalog, I'm assuming.
yeah,
And am I correct to assume that you can understand some parts, but you don't know which is which?
yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a common thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a common thing. But
So,
yeah,
but yeah, what, just one thing. So in the comic, there's the one, one image, like one key image is like, there's like a fan, and it's written the Philippines, and then there's like this Mount Mayon, like a volcano, and some palm trees and the beach on it. And this is a bit like a metaphor, because we had this fan at home hanging in our living room, and it's like the girl is imagining, like in her dream world, she's like, see, there's the beach and the palm trees, and
mhm.
it's like her, like she's distant, like she's imagining the Philippines, but she doesn't really know. And I think it's a bit like a metaphor for what my relationship to the Philippines was a long time.
And the last time you were in the Philippines was 2023.
Yeah,
Have you been able to go around the Philippines?
yeah,
Or yeah, okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
good.
I did some traveling now in the meanwhile, in the meantime.
And how
But
does
yeah,
it?
just the last years now, like I just started traveling often to the Philippines and visit my family more often, like after like 28, after I'm 28, like yeah, after my studies basically.
And how does it feel being back here?
it's good. It's nice. Like I started learning some Tagalog. I'm visiting my cousins that I'm like having a relationship with my family. Um, yeah, it feels good. It feels good to come back. And I think also it makes my mom very happy that I'm interested in going to the Philippines because I think she would, I don't know, I think she was not expecting that.
It's interesting because I think moms of that generation leave or like try to make you leave the country and then be like, go for a better life, etc. Don't speak to you in your language. But then they're
Mm.
happy when you try to learn, right?
Yeah, like why didn't you do that from the first place? Speaking your language with me.
Why'd you make it so hard for me?
Yeah, it's so fucking hard to learn Tagalog. My God.
It especially, yeah, it is a difficult language to learn. Um, Interestingly, if you if you're traveling the Philippines and you're coming from Germany, I am very curious as to what you think of the people of the Philippines. Are we not the friendliest people?
Yes, when you come from Germany, you're like, what? Or you come back from I'm every time in shock when I'm coming from the Philippines back to Germany and everyone's like, "Mm." Like, why are they talking to me? Like, why are you looking at me? Yeah, it's a big difference between Germany and the Philippines. Like, I always have a culture shock every time.
Well, let me ask you this. When you're looking at comics from around the world, the thing that strikes me the most about European comics is production value.
Hmm.
It's not meant it's not just meant for kids. Some of it is meant for kids. Um, some of the best comics for kids are come from Europe,
Mm.
like Asterix and Obelix.
Which is not for kids.
Would you say it's not for kids?
Yeah, for example, here I'm with my parents of my partner, and his dad is super into Asterix and Obelix. Probably since he's a kid, but
What I
um,
mean to say is Asterix and Obelix is for all ages.
yeah.
Yeah. But does the production value of European comics do something for you? Like, is that something that you would like to get to aspire to, etc.?
What do you
Or
mean with production value?
like European comics in general are bigger than American comics, bigger than Japanese comics. They're thinner than, let's say,
Mm.
Japanese comics because manga is very thick, but also manga is in black and white. There is no lush colors that come with European comics, for example. And colors in American comics sometimes are great and sometimes they're just there. So just I wanted to ask about like what you thought of that whole package of European comics, and is that something that inspires you as well?
I think what inspires me is like this author, like not the whole production, there's a sense like with Asterix on Obelix I was less interested. I read it, but it moved me less. I think I'm really interested in this authorship, like, when it's not a whole production, there's a scenarist and then there's the colorist and then there's the inker. And I really like it when everything is done by one person and with all it flaws. Like someone is a great storyteller, but maybe not the most genius drawer or like best colorist, but it's all true.
Yeah, I think you were talking about your work, long distance call being fiction but really based on reality, and we were talking about Persepolis by Marjan Satrapi, and I do think that one thing that comics does better than any other medium is that type of personal work.
Mm.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, for example, I think I'm not the best drawer, Like
Mhm.
I think there are people who can draw much better than me. And I think the person who explains it very like explains it very well in her workshop is Linda Berry. You know her? She's American and
So,
also quarter Filipino.
yeah.
And I use her a lot as an inspiration for my workshops. Like she's encouraging people who are normally not drawing to draw. And like she's always asking this question, like, what does make a bad drawing? Like when you spend like 20 minutes on this drawing, is it a bad drawing? Like is it a bad drawing because the perspective is wrong or whatever? And I think this is I think this is there's some magic in drawings that are just true, like yeah, I don't know, like how children are drawing. It's amazing
Oh,
how children are drawing it. They are the best.
it's honesty.
It's
I
honesty.
I
Mm-hmm.
I like the shout out to Linda Barry because I reading 100 Demons was the
Ah,
first time I saw the Philippines represented in international media,
mm-hmm.
and I was wondering if it had a similar impact for you because, for example, she has that whole chapter about smells and how her house smelled like fried fish, cigarettes. Is that something that also impacted you when you discovered Linda?
I discovered Linda through syllabus, like her workshop concepts.
Yeah.
And this was what influenced me a lot, like how she's explaining how they're like children, they draw and they're like, oh, and then there's an explosion, and then like while they're drawing it, now there's a comet coming, and they wanted to draw a chair, but in the end it became something else, and it's also fine. And there's also one chapter where she's describing her Filipino uncle being in there, she didn't know where he came from, what he was doing, but he was just drawing the whole time in the living room. Yeah.
Sheree, your long distance call is going to be printed in the Philippines and will be released on July 5 and 6 at Peak Off.
Yay.
And congratulations on that. I cannot wait to get it and ask you to sign it. But in preparation for this interview, Paulo Heras also lent me this book. And seeing as how I do not speak German, I don't understand it, but it looks amazing.
Thank you.
And am I correct in that? Am I translating it right in that you wrote this?
No,
No, you drew it.
I drew it, but
Oh, okay.
so yeah, it's a bit different than the comics that I was just talking about, where I
Yeah.
said I like when people are doing everything.
I'm
But
I'm just confused because it said scenario and I assumed that meant art, but I guess that meant story.
no, scenarist is the person who wrote the script, exactly.
Okay.
Um, And
Okay.
this book was, I think, when they published Ferngespräch, and since it's such a personal story, I was talking so much about my biography, like about my Filipino mother and my heritage and blah, blah, blah. And I think it annoyed me at some point in Germany that people seem to be more interested in my biography than in the comic.
Ah.
And then Patrick Speth asked me, do you want to do this comic with me? It's about a giant monster. It's about the South Korean actress who got kidnapped, and there's a car race also, and a battle. And I was like, that's great. I think I should do that to first challenge myself a bit, getting a bit out of this autobiographical thing,
Uh-huh.
and also let people know that I'm also capable of doing other things than telling my own family stories.
And I is South Korean, right? So I'm reading the back matter and I'm trying to read the quotes and it says Kim Jong Il. And I was like, wait, what? Just I thought they were reviews. I was like, wait, what? Um, but will this book also be available at Peacock?
I probably not. It's available in English, but it was published by Self-Made Hero in the UK and the US. So it's it's available in English, but I don't know if it's
Okay.
available at the Pickoff. Probably not.
What else will you be bringing to Peacock?
Good
If
question.
anything.
Myself, a comic reading. I prepared a reading with some music that was composed by a friend long time ago when it was published in Germany. I will bring a masterclass you can attend to. It's a lot inspired by Linda Berry and Ivan Brunetti. You probably know him too.
Yeah.
What else will I bring? I'm going to bring some German copies of Ferngespräch, and I will bring this book in German. I unfortunately have not enough copies in English. They were very greedy. I only got one. I only got 2 copies in of my book in English. And I will bring some zines to show. Like I have unfortunately not so much things to sell anymore. Like so I used to make a lot of zines and posters and postcards, but I haven't done that for a long time. So that's all I can bring.
Given that you love autobio, let's say you create, let's say you make your big autobio book, which I'm assuming you will make eventually.
When I'm 90.
How will you fill up the time in the meantime when not doing autobio stuff? Will you be working with other writers, much like with Patrick, or what else is on the horizon?
So at the moment, I'm working on another book with Patrick Schwedt. I feel I have a great urge to write again, to tell my own story again. But he offered me the script after we finished this, and I was like, I don't want to work with another time with a scenarist, with a script writer. But damn, I like the story so much, I have to do it. So I said yes again. And so this book is about a whale. It's also based on a true story. So in the 1960s, there was a white whale, a beluga whale. They're normally like in Canada and Russia. These whales that are sometimes spies. And he got lost, and he ended up in the Rhine, was such a German river in the 60s. And it was such a huge thing, like a white whale in the river. Like everyone was crazy about it, because it's
How?
They found out much later why. So it was probably caught for the London Zoo, 2 white whales in Canada, and then the ship got into a storm, and then the ship sank, whatever, I don't know. The whales got lost they got washed up in the Northern Sea. And one of them ended up in the Rhine and was super confused. Like it swam until Duisburg, which is like a German city, like with a big port. I don't know how to say this in English, like a port that's inside the country by the river. It's like the biggest industrial port, whatever.
Yeah.
And the Rhine by the time was super dirty. It was like it was just the brown soup, And then there was this white whale also becoming thinner and thinner and dirtier, and then there was this zoo director, and he wanted to catch this whale for his new dolphin show.
Oh yeah, just like in Moby Dick.
Yeah, and they also started calling, like in the media, they started him call Moby Dick, the whale. So it became like a hunting, like a hunting.
Poor whale.
Poor whale. Yeah, he tried several times, like several techniques to catch him, but he never caught him in the end. And then the whale escaped in the Northern Sea. But what happened to him, no one knows.
Well, I'm glad the whale escaped into the sea.
Yeah, me too.
Sheree, this was great. I am so happy to come see you on July 5 and 6 at Peacock.
Yeah, me too.
And it'll be very exciting, and I will get a copy of Long Distance Call. I encourage everybody to get a copy of Long Distance Call. And go say hi to Sheree and take her masterclass. and watch her reading.
Thank
The-
you.
Thank you so much, Sheree.
Thank you.
Take
See
care.
you soon.
See you
Take
soon.
care.